Hi, I'm Michael Britton, and welcome to my painting garret. In this, my 5th lesson on the structures of beauty in painting. And if you miss lessons, just go to my site, artacademy.com, scroll down through my teaching schedule of upcoming Zoom classes. Sneaky way to put in an ad. And you'll see listed there all of the lessons. Today I want to talk about dynamic symmetry and the harmonious divisions of space. And this is a very, very important part of composition and also of design in painting. This painting is of a young lute player. The idea is taking off of Caravaggio, but I won't be taking that much of a Baroque approach to it. However, the understructure of this painting is the same as that of the Baroque and the latter Renaissance, whether we're dealing with Caravaggio, Bronzini, Rembrandt, Frans Hals, Rubens, yada yada yada. My canvas size, or panel, we use canvas to depict the whole pictorial area, subscribes to the dynamic ratio of the square root of phi. That's phi. Phi is the golden number, 1.618. And that is the number of the world soul as defined by Plato in his seminal work, Timaeus. Now, phi is an irrational number. It's also a very fascinating proportion. It is the root of Western civilization. It is the nomen. From here, everything springs, whether it be the Parthenon, on top of that long, hot climb in Athens, right to that computer, that smartphone that you're viewing this lesson on. Software is developed off of the Fibonacci sequence, which is simply 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, yeah, it goes on and on and on. However, divide 8 by 5, you get 1.6. Go a little bit higher along the Fibonacci, you get 1.618, and that remains constant until the end of time, until doomsday, which, as I understand it, is a week Thursday. The actual measure of this painting is 15 by 11.79 inches. I begin a painting straight with the brush. None of this preliminary drawing stuff. If you can draw, if you can render a well-resolved drawing with a pencil, why would you do that on your canvas? Because what will happen then, and this happens every time I see it over and over and over again in all my many, many years of painting, far too many years, I guess I've gotten old. But that's better than the alternative. What I want to introduce you today is the internal matrix of utilizing this dynamic symmetry within my root phi canvas. To begin my dynamic composition, I begin with what is called the abutment. The abutment is applying a square onto the end of the canvas. Now, my canvas is 15 by 11.79 inches. Therefore, along the base, I'll measure an 11.79 from left to right. And I'll do the same again from right to left, establishing 2, count them, 1, 2 overlapping squares. The abutment is a very powerful compositional tool. It immediately locks in the elements of your painting. Next, I took two diagonals across that right side abutment. I'm looking for where I'm going to place the head. Not only the placement of the head, but I will also want to figure out the size of the head. And it all has to have a concordant relationship to the entire canvas, to my root phi canvas. Another very powerful tool is applying an arc within your abutment. And I have here a primary arc, wherein that will denote the top of the head. I'm placing the middle knuckle of her hand to touch that arc. Now all of these constructive lines, think of them as like live wires. All you have to do is touch it and bzzz, it's like sticking a fork into a live toaster. On that same arc, we'll also touch upon the radius of that far hand. I also have another arc going from left to right, top to bottom. That arc too will touch upon this middle knuckle. I'm doubly locking it in. And as it continues through, it's also just going to touch upon the thenar, this thumb bone of the hand. And I've also made a small adjustment with the forearm. I want that to touch the arc. And so I'm making a small departure from the actual anatomy. And now for the actual flute. That's more or less a horizontal line. Horizontal lines are leader lines. They define how a painting is read. Most paintings are read from left to right, the same way we read a book. Paintings that are read from right to left are called in sinisterium, sinister. However, this painting, because the head is on the right side, and with my arcs and that leader line of the flute, it's going to be read from left to right. Note too how I'm placing the flute, or actually the length of the flute. It's touching upon a diagonal from the abutment to the upper corner of my canvas. And same too, does it end on that abutment's diagonal. Yes, I have extended the actual length of the flute, but we take such liberties for the composition. It's a bit of a mannerism, but who's gonna know? Unless you're a flautist, then you might think, that's a bit too long. But that doesn't matter. The most important thing, by far, is your composition. So you may have to make some changes here. Now, for the size of the head, the chin touches upon that diagonal, okay, right here on the mental process, and the top of the head touches upon that initial arc. Having now decided upon my composition, I load up my brush with a 50-50 mix of raw umber and ivory black, significantly diluted, 1 part walnut oil, 3 parts turp. I deliberately keep the drawing quite loose. I don't want to get caught up in all of these inconsequential, useless details. Details are not your friend. Not at all. Details is the kind of guy who'll borrow $100 from you and you'll never see him again. He will do you no favors. In fact, he will lead you seriously astray. No details. They are for amateurs. And I don't train amateurs. I want to train artists. I'm only interested here in the composition and also the energy. I draw quite quickly. Yes, the proportions of my facial matrix are correct. I don't have to kill myself with that. It only takes a very short time with the proper training to be able to consistently and accurately strike the arabesque of the head, that's the whole outside shape, and also the proper proportions of the facial matrix. I teach that in my classes. In fact, I do more than teach. I train you how to see. And there's a gulf of difference between looking and seeing. So even at this very early stage of the painting, I have both rhythm, opposition, transition, and my leader line. And the overall armature of my composition is a reversed L shape. And now I'm ready for the ébauche. The ébauche is a dead coloring in. And in lesson 6, I'll talk about color.